Hey everyone, welcome to Fanduel Fridays, where I just hop on Fanduel and do some roster building for everyone. Just show you my thought process of how I go through building rosters. Sunday morning usually is when I do it. It's when I like to do it. That's when you know all the injury updates usually. And I kind of peek throughout the week to see prices and everything, no matchups, and then just kind of have a general idea of how I want to build a roster. So we're just going to go through that thought process right now. This is not scripted. I'm just literally doing it off the top of my head. And let's see what we got here. So I usually always start with quarterback, tight end, or defense, and I just kind of build around it. And tight ends that I like a lot this week, right now at least, are Cole Kmet. I always say Clement for whatever reason. 5,300, good price. The Bears play the Lions. If you want to look at his stats recently, it's not been, it's not had a pretty season, but 19 last week, 2 touchdowns, caught a touchdown last week. I always go pretty cheap on tight ends if I'm not spending up on a guy. Like Kelsey, I'll spend up on. Mark Andrews, I'll spend up on. But we're just going to start with Cole Kmet and see if it sticks in the long run. So I picked the Seahawks defense every single week of the NFL season, and they are not playing at noon. They're playing at 8:30 in the morning. So I'm gonna pick the cheap defenses like I always do. So for right now, we're gonna go with the Vikings. If Josh Allen doesn't play, the Vikings are a pretty decent play. Obviously, there's a backup quarterback there, but I might just pay up and pick the Steelers. We know Andy Dalton throws a few picks a game. TJ Watt's back. I don't think the Steelers defense is great, but I'm just kind of looking for something opportunistic when I pick the defense here. Now we got my two core things that I start with. Let's go to running back here. Now there's a lot of running backs that are pretty pricey, and a lot of guys I like a lot. I'm just gonna start with Jamal Williams, who I think is a good play. We'll go Tony Pollard, who again think it's a good play. And I usually like to put a running back in my flex, but I think we're gonna save that for now, and we'll come back to that. So right now my average is 7,400 that I have left over. So I spent decent on running backs. That's pretty good. But the quarterbacks that I'm looking for this week are like Fields and Tua are 81 and 8,300. So if I spend up on that, I gotta spend down on receivers. So let's just take that out right now. Let's go Justin Fields, and since I'm gonna do that, I actually want to take out Cole Kmet because I think I want to put somebody else there. So we will spend down again on Foster Moreau. No Darren Waller the rest of the year. His stats have been pretty decent since Waller's been out. 2 for 42, 3.4. I mean, that's not great. 6 for 31. I like the targets though, 9. So maybe this week he gets in the end zone. I'm fine always playing cheap tight ends. I really don't have a. I just don't like to pay up on tight ends usually. So let's go receivers. Obviously, we got some big numbers, big money, some good matchups too. So I'm gonna just go start out with a guy I've picked literally every week. That's Chris Olave. Another guy I love a lot is Juju this week. And what's our budget? 7,200. So I'm not gonna spend super high up right now. Actually, we might go big. We might go big and maybe make our flex cheap depending on what I like here. So let's do let's do Jalen. Yeah, let's do Jalen Waddle. And what do we got left? 6,200. So right now we got Fields, Jamal Williams, Tony Pollard, Olave, Juju, Jalen Waddle, Foster, and the Vikings defense. 6,200 isn't a lot for the flex, to be honest. So, like, oh wait, no, this is good. I like Darnell Mooney. So this is like an idea, like a kind of how I do it. I know I just didn't really say much. I was just naming names, but I like Justin Fields against the Lions. That's awesome this week. And like, look at Fields' points the last 3 weeks. It's been disgusting. Let's start with even here. Night 14 or 4 weeks ago. 19, 24, 26, 42, 178 rushing yards, 15 attempts, 8 attempts, 60 yards. Look at the touchdowns. 14 for 82, touchdown. 4 first downs. I think that's what that stands for. Like, it's good. His passing numbers are whatever, but he's throwing scores too. So I think just against the Lions, who we know aren't great, is a great matchup. And the Bears, they're not good against the run. And Jamal Williams, look at 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. The touchdown guy. Last week he had 24 attempts for 81 yards. And I think there was a target split share of him and DeAndre Swift. I just like the matchup because I think it's going to be a high scoring game. So I like those two guys. Zeke's kind of banged up. Packers' run defense isn't great, and we've seen all year that Tony Pollard is the much more explosive back. So I'm okay paying 7K for Tony Pollard. Darnell Mooney's been kind of coming on the last few weeks because the Bears' offense has been a little better. 8 targets, 7 for 43 and a tutty. I'll take it. 5 targets, 5 for 70. I'll take it. 3 for 53. Again, 7 for 68. 4 for 94. He's got some decent numbers. Hopefully he just can get it in the end zone, but that price tag's cheap for how I'm building this roster. I like this. This might be a roster I ended up playing on, well, this weekend. So let's clear it. Let's try to make another one here. Let's start out with quarterback again. No, let's be different. We'll start tight end again though, because that's just what I like to do. Hawk is not a guy I don't mind. Greg Dulich has been popping up on a lot of guys' radars because Russell Wilson can't throw the ball, and he's just his flat route or his short route. If you watched him in Seattle, he always likes to take the little dump offs, and he's been catching the dump offs. Um, I mean, Danny Bellinger's out, so you could go really cheap at tight end if you wanted, like you want to dig into the archives. But I don't like to get super cute and play a guy way down here. Like I'm gonna play OJ Howard this week because he's 4400 and maybe he'll catch a touchdown. Like I don't like to do that. I don't think that's smart how to build a roster. I like to pick guys that you kind of like are going to consistently catch the ball. We see targets. So that's again Foster, Cole, Schultz isn't a bad option. Firemouth isn't a bad option. Higbee's not a bad option. But I think for this next one we'll do T.J. Hawkinson for his first game in Minnesota. I think he got 9 targets. Yeah, 9 for 70. Like that's fantastic tight end production, and because you can't count on a lot of these guys that give you 9 targets and 70 yards. So we'll start there. We'll pick a different defense this time. Just for the sake of it, for the money wise, let's do the Steelers defense. It's a defense I don't mind right now. Just glancing at it, I usually never pay up for defenses. Like I'm not paying 5K for the Cowboys defense. I will just won't pay for a defense over like 4,000. The Cardinals play the Rams. I'm not gonna pick that defense. We're not picking the Dolphins defense. You're not picking the Colts defense. You're definitely not picking the Bears. They're not picking the Packers. So you just got to find spots that you like that are cheap. And the Vikings, since maybe no Josh Allen, and the Steelers are just options I don't mind. I mean, the Vikings defense is pretty good. So we'll stick with the Steelers this time. Quarterback, we're going to be really different because this is another guy that I like a lot. Jacoby Brissett, sorry, is 7,000 against a terrible, terrible Dolphins defense. Jacoby hasn't been anything amazing, but 20 points, 20 plus points for 7,000 when I'm going to go kind of a different kind of lineup here. I like the price tag. Let's go to running back. Actually, let's go receiver because I'm going to do running back last because I want to try to spend up on running back. I think, again, I'm just going to have to pick Chris Olave, honestly. Like, there's going to be a couple people that I consistently pick when I make these lineups because I just think that there's just constants that I like to have in my lineup that have been awesome for me all year when I play Fanduel. Like I said, Chris Olave is just one of those guys who 6 for 71, 552, and goes against the Steelers defense, who has given up big games all year to receivers. So I think we're always gonna have Chris Olave in any lineup that I build this weekend. Then we'll scroll down because I think I want. There's a few guys down here that I like. I like George Pickens this week. I think George Pickens eventually. Well, like this is awful, but it was against the Eagles. Against the Dolphins, 6 for 61 on Tutty. We know how bad that defense is. Buccaneers, tough matchup, tough matchup, tough matchup. But he had 6 for 102 in a tough matchup. So this is a guy just to think about if you're gonna build different like I am. So I'm gonna pick George Pickens. And we need one more receiver. We need to pick someone down here like Mac Hollins. Maybe, probably not. We're gonna pick MVS. What's his stats been like the last few weeks? Well, we kind of know him as a boomer bust guy, and he's either booming or busting. I'm not putting him in my lineup. IR for Hunter Renfro, which again kind of makes Mac Hollins a guy to think about, but the Raiders just don't look very good on offense unless they just run the ball a bunch to Josh Jacobs. So let's go DPJ will probably be a pretty good pick if you want to pair Jacoby or stack Jacoby with a guy. DPJ is really cheap if you're not picking Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper is 78. Yeah, he's 78 right here. He's been pretty awesome, honestly, all year on a consistent basis. Got a couple duds sprinkled in between a 20-point game. 17, 12. I think Amari Cooper is worth the money, but for the sake of what we're doing right here, we'll go cheap and put DPJ down here because I want to go really high in the running backs. Let's try to pick a cheap flex too. Cheap flex. Who do we got that we might like? I don't mind Jeff Wilson. Um, Swift is pretty cheap, but he's banged up. And I just think Jamal Williams is right now the better back. I'm not touching A.J. Dillon. I mean, Juju's 7,000. That puts us under our average that we want to spend. I don't mind that. I'm not taking. I'm not taking a Chiefs running back. Come on. I also don't mind Mostert, but he wasn't as explosive. He got the touchdown last week, but Jeff Wilson looked pretty dang good running that ball last week for the Dolphins. Let's go see what his stats were. 9 for 51. I know it's not a lot of carries, but he had some explosive runs. 3 for 21. He caught a touchdown. Jeff Wilson might be the guy we put in the flex position. I think that's who I'm ultimately going to take here is Jeff Wilson. And then we're going to spend up on these running backs. So you can take one really expensive guy. Like I love Saquon Barkley this week. Like that's a hammer. I love Nick Chubb. I love Derrick Henry. I love Josh Jacobs. Well, I don't know about love Josh Jacobs. I like Josh Jacobs. Damian Pierce isn't a bad play. Let's just go all out. Barkley had a week of rest. Let's pick Saquon Barkley. That leaves us with still 8,600 to pick a guy. Kamara, Josh Jacobs. This is where usually if I'm stuck with this much money and there's guys that I just kind of don't feel like playing, like you could play Kamara, who's had some nice games the last few weeks. He's kind of looking like Alvin Kamara. 38, 14 is pretty nice. 7's not great. That game against Baltimore was a wacky one because the Saints, I don't think, are a very good football team. Josh Jacobs here. Last week was another really weird week against a team that's not great against the run, but if the Raiders want to win, Josh Jacobs has to be the guy that they follow. And the Colts are missing a few key defensive guys. Darius Leonard, as we know. I think I will put Josh Jacobs in this lineup and see how I feel about it. So we have 200 left remaining. Brissett at Q, which I like because the Dolphins' defense sucks. DPJ is your stack there. Pickens is a cheap option that you could go away from if you want to build differently. I think Olave is a hammer play for me. I'm just going to play him no matter what. I also, this is something completely not related to picking guys. I like picking guys that play in the afternoon when I'm in like Fanduel League. So I'm in a Fanduel League, and I like having something to root for in the second half of games. So I try to always pick a few 4 o'clock games or in Wisconsin or Central Time, 3:05 and 3:25 games, just because it gives me a little diversity and it doesn't make me just use all my all the points are in the first half of games and then the second half of games like okay I scored 120 I have no chance of catching up to anybody. um is there anybody else I like a lot that plays at 4 before I call this lineup really good? I mean I'm gonna do one more I think. um I'm not picking Al Lazard honestly. I don't think so. I mean unless you're picking a Ram or a Cardinal. Man, I don't know. I think this lineup's pretty good. I think this is a weaker lineup than the first one I built, but I like the Brissett and I like the Barkley. I love Olave. I don't mind T.J. Hawk. The Jeff Wilson I'm not sold on personally, and I'm not sold on George Pickens. But I like the cheap options that are boom or bust. But this is usually when I shoot myself in the foot. Like I'll have Barkley pop off for 25. Brissett will get me 22. Olave will get me 14. George Pickens will give me 3. DPJ will give me 10. Jeff Wilson gives me 5. And then, like, I have guys that pop off, but then I have the guys that I question before I put my lineup in that end up not playing well for me. So, I don't know. This is another example of just kind of how my brain works when I'm doing it. Seeing the matchup, seeing the guys that I like, and just kind of picking. And then, tinkering with it as before I get closer to noon. But I try to do all my lineups at like 10. So I set my lineups at 10, do my thing, wait for football to start at noon, and then I'm good. But the Seahawks play at 8:30, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll probably have to do it during the halftime. Okay. Anyway, sorry, rambling here. Let's do one more, maybe two more. Um, This video's at 15 minutes. That's not too bad. Let's do one more at least. Okay, so quarterback. We're just gonna start right with quarterback. A guy I like again is Daniel Jones, 7,500. Look at the stats. He's going against another terrible defense. He's been just okay. Pretty much a teensy guy. This against the Jags, he ran for 107, which is disgusting. 202 yards. He ran for a touchdown, and he threw it to our touchdown. Sorry, I'm not picking Daniel Jones, but just a guy that I like. I like Jared Goff because again he goes against the Bears, but the Bears' pass defense is pretty decent, and all the touchdowns might just go to Jamal Williams, anyways. Russell Wilson, yeah, right. And it gets pretty gross down here, honestly. Like once you get like Trevor Lawrence and lower, you're not picking. And I'm not picking Trevor Lawrence this week. Going against the Chiefs, it's gonna be a shootout. I feel like Trevor Lawrence is gonna get sacked a lot this game. I don't know. It's just not a guy I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna pick safe options like Tua, Fields, and Brissett. So let's do a Tua with a stack. So we'll do Tua and Tyreek Hill. Now there's a bunch of money already right away. So we're gonna have to be really creative with this one. We're gonna pick the cheap defense. We're gonna pick the Vikings one here. We're gonna pick cheap tight ends here. I'll scroll up so you can see the screen a little better. I mean, Evan Ingram's really cheap. Is he hurt or anything? Back doesn't care. Okay, I didn't think so. I mean, like I said, let's play Evan Ingram. He should be a nice play. He had 2 targets for 1 catch and 8 yards. What am I talking about? I'm not playing Robert Tunyon. I'm not playing Dawson Knox. I already have. I don't like the triple stack. I know some YouTubers talk about triple stacking, or some FanDuel players or DraftKings players. Like some weeks they really like triple stacks. Like I'll play Gasecki, or they'll put Tua, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. Like realistically, is that like a really good idea? I mean, yeah, because these guys have been going off for 100 apiece. This trio has been so good, and if you could make a 3 stack work, let's for the sake of this argument that I'm having with myself here, let's do a 3 stack. So down here for this other receiver, we'll put DPJ. Can't remember how much he is, and I don't like to type guys in. Oh, there he is. So we'll put DPJ. We'll go really cheap. Tight end. You want to do Foster Moreau here? Let's do that. He plays at 405. Let's do Foster Moreau. Gives you a 4 o'clock game that I like because I'm a weirdo. Running back. See, now our average is 68. That's actually pretty decent. It's going to be kind of tricky to pick a running back, though. James Conner's healthy. He ran pretty hard against Seattle last week. 5 catches. I don't know if Kyler Murray doesn't play. I think I want to stay away from James Conner. What did Daryl Henderson do last week? Attempts wise 1256. This team just can't run the ball, man. I think I put Daryl Henderson in the lineup a few weeks ago too, and the Rams just can't move the football. Kareem Hunt. Oh, that might not be a bad option. I feel like he kind of needs to get in the end zone though for that value of 5,800 to pay off. Like 11 carries for 42, that's not bad. If you just hope you punch one in the goal line. Like this one's a bad week, but he scored. But he had 7. What's the touchdown week? Okay, 11:47 a touchdown, 3 for 10, 13 points. I can't justify in my own head to put him there. Khalil Herbert's really cheap. He kind of fell off a cliff because it was the Jalen Hurts. I mean, not the Jalen Hurts show. Sorry, the Justin Fields show last week. But I think I like these 12 for 62, a receiving touchdown, 16 for 99, a rushing touchdown. That's not too bad. That's not a bad option. I think the lower you go, the more disgusting it gets. Like, okay, yeah. What am I doing? Let's scroll up. Man, it's tough. I can't say Raheem Mostert. Nope. Let's do Jeff Wilson maybe. Let's do Tony Pollard and Jeff Wilson actually. That gives you 7. That's not bad. Okay, alrighty, nice. And then for flex, Jonathan Taylor, who doesn't have an injury designation. That's not a. Well, actually, we'll come back to Jonathan Taylor. That might be who I go with. I think 7K for JT can kind of beat up. The Colts are kind of, I don't know, hired a new coach. Maybe the coach just goes back and, Sam Ehlinger's a quarterback. They either just go back to let's just try to give JT the rock a bunch. You see JT have a good game this week, like a really explosive one. Let's do it. Let's put Jonathan Taylor. This is your three stack lineup. I personally don't think I've ever done a three stack, but if I'm gonna do a three stack, I think this is a good week to do it. Uh, Tua and Tyreek and Jalen have just been kind of unstoppable, and the Browns' defense is just pretty much average. It's like a 7 for 85 at a touchdown, 8 for 106, two touchdowns, 4 for 88, 6 for 129. Like, what is going on? They're just video game numbers, honestly. Tyreek Hill looks like to be right now. It looks like the best receiver in football every single week. 7 for 143 touch. Like, what are these numbers? 190, 160, 170, 188, 143. This dude is blowing it up. 36, 20, 23, 10. I like the three stack and DPJ. He's been all right. Actually, he's been a lot better than all right. He's been over 50 yards every game besides these two. Not a touchdown guy because he doesn't have one, but I don't mind the DPJ play. 5,700 too. Unless you're gonna pick, if you're not gonna go with DPJ there, you could go with George Pickens. I don't mind that. Kadarius Toney, it's not bad either. Wan'Dale Robinson might not be bad. Michael Gallup might not be bad. He's been just okay. I mean, the Packers' pass defense is pretty good. They have a bunch of injuries though. I think eventually Michael Gallup will be a guy that we like to use in FanDuel. I have him on a fantasy roster, like a redraft. He's been just on my roster. I have a couple other Cowboys. I have Zeke and Pollard actually. But I've held on to him all year because I think eventually he's just a guy that I could use if someone gets hurt. So Michael Gallup's just a guy to keep your eye on as the FanDuel season progresses. But yeah, this is the three stack I like. I've never done this, but I don't mind this lineup at all. Um, we'll do one more quick one. This is already a pretty long video, 20 minutes. We'll do 22 minutes actually. We'll do one more really quick one. So we're gonna not pick Tua this time because I think Fields is my favorite quarterback for the week. Knowing what I just said out loud about Jonathan Taylor's kind of talked me into picking Jonathan Taylor. So we'll pick Jonathan Taylor. And I think we're gonna pair him with Tony Pollard or Josh Jacobs. Let's let's do Tony Pollard. I like Jamal Williams a lot too. Let's do Tony Pollard. Let's do Tony Pollard. I think Mike McCarthy's really going to be motivated to beat the Packers and beat the piss out of them. We'll go cheap on defense again. I don't care. Vikings defense. That's been the consistent one I've been just going to because I just like the price so much. But I do want to pick Tyreek Hill. That means us pretty strapped, 6,300. So we're gonna have to go kind of cheap with some positions. But we go cheap at tight end here. So Cole Kmet might be the guy. I think with Fields, I'm gonna go Mooney and not Kmet because I think I do want to stack Fields with one of his pass catchers. And I think Kmet right now is still kind of TD dependent. Like 6 targets is nice. That's the most he's had. But his numbers are just okay if he doesn't score a touchdown or two. So I'm not gonna do that. I think what's Fryermuth been up to? I think he's had a pretty solid season, right? 7, 8. That's not too bad. But Hawks 6,000. I want to pick a guy that's in the 5,000s. I get. I mean, I guess we're just gonna pick Foster Moreau, right? I mean, the Colts have a pretty good pass defense, but the Raiders don't have a bunch of pass catchers. So, man, I said this was gonna be a fast roster, and I'm already second guessing every single decision I do. Let's just do Foster Moreau. See what we have money wise after. Receiver. Like I said, we'll go Darnell Mooney, 6,200. And that leaves us with a pretty good chunk of 7,000. Let's we got up here. I like Juju. I do like Juju a lot. I think Juju might be the guy that we put here. And our flex could be another 7,000 play or cheaper. How much is Amari Cooper? 78, right? I do really like the Amari Cooper play. Let's do Amari Cooper. 63 for the flex. That's not a lot. But I feel like we could find a guy that we like. I don't like Pittman enough. I don't like Connor enough. Like I said, I'm not picking any of this. I'm not picking a tight end. Okay, maybe I lied. Maybe I don't like that. Okay, so if I wanted to put Amari Cooper in this lineup, I think I'd have to get rid of Tony Pollard or Jonathan Taylor, and I don't think I could do that because like the running back prices after that, like Montgomery's 67. He's been not really doing much this year. He had one good game and two touchdowns. Like I can't justify sacrificing Tony Pollard for David Montgomery when it's $300. Anything below Jeff Wilson really has just been really bad. Najee Harris has had an awful year, and guys picked him in the first like 5 rounds, or sorry, first 5 picks of redraft, and he's just been abysmal. His attempts aren't super high. 18 is his highest attempt game for 74, 17 for 65. I don't know. I just think the Steelers are kind of broken. I'm not picking Najee Harris. So I lied. Um, no Amari Cooper. I think if you do want to pick a Brown though, it'd be DPJ or seven, or we could pick a receiver around 7th. This is where like the Seahawks playing is always good because like Lockett and DK. I think Lockett last year was 76. DK's been like 72. I'd pick DK up there. Let's do Juju. That gives us 71 for our last guy, and that would be well, the guys I already have. Ironically enough. Oh, let's do Amon Ra. I haven't talked about him. He hasn't. He's man. I don't know. I think we're gonna do or Christian Kirk might not be bad, but the Jays game just scares me. So let's do Amon-Ra St. Brown. And actually, I like this lineup quite a bit. This might be my favorite one I've done because I really talked myself into Jonathan Taylor on that last lineup. I think guys that you'll see me consistently pick this week will be Fields and Tua, a combo of the two. I'm gonna probably pick Tyreek Hill and or Jalen Waddle. Um, I think for fun, I'll probably do that 3 stack lineup that I did, and then just build around that. I like Juju a lot. I like Chris Olave a lot. I like Pollard a lot. I think that's kind of how I'm going to construct these lineups for me this week, is just like that. Um, yeah. Anyways, this is kind of like how I kind of go through my Sunday mornings when I'm building rosters. I just literally talk to myself in my head as I'm building these, and I'm just picking things and looking at matchups and really thinking about what's the player done recently? What's the defense they're going against did recently? How's the quarterback been recently? Like, don't just always look at numbers and look at how a team is playing. Like, you see a lot of the green on the guys I picked because I think they're all really good matchups. Besides the Bears, their opponent, their overall defense was 12th. Their pass defense is pretty good. I don't really look into numbers. I just kind of think of guys that like this. It sounds kind of weird, but guys that need to have a good week. Because Jonathan Taylor needs to have a good week because he hasn't had one besides week 1. And I feel like I said, Jeff Saturday's there, new head coach. They're gonna get back to basics and give JT the ball a bunch. So like you just kind of think of big JT games coming. Pollard looks like to be he's the guy. Tyreek Hill's been consistent every single week. You kind of feel like you need to play the 9K to put him in. Um, Mooney's a cheap play with your stack with Fields. Juju's been really nice the last 2 weeks. 13 catches and like 11 catches or 12 and 13. I'm way off. I'm thinking of targets. 10 and 7, but these are good numbers. 3 weeks of 113, 124, and 88. I just looked at that's just kind of how I do it. Just look at guys who's been awesome the last few weeks, the matchups that I like, and just kind of go from there. I'm gonna do these every Friday. Maybe a little shorter than 30 minutes because I figured I was gonna ramble a lot because, like I said, this wasn't gonna be a script or anything. I was just gonna kind of talk and pick guys, and you just see how my thought process goes. But yeah, guys, if you liked the video, let me know. Send me a text. Tell me it sucked, what I needed to work on. But I'm going to do one more video this week. I'm going to try to record it tomorrow and upload it. Literally already ready to upload for Sunday morning. And it'll come out at a better time, so like an hour before kickoff. But hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's try to win some money this weekend.